Getting a cancer diagnosis is like having your identity stolen. On November 2nd of 2015, I found myself at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, facing my 14th surgery. It was cancer yet again.
Peter had what he thought was a vibrant walk with the Lord for most of his life. Beginning in 2005, his journey with the cancer diagnosis was going to test his faith in more ways than he could have imagined. After his 14th surgery, the report from the lead doctor was bleak. The procedure had taken 9 hours, and the team of 3 surgeons had to remove multiple tumors and reconstruct his bladder pouch and ureters for the 3rd time.
As he told me the news, he got up and left, and I felt hopeless at that point. I knew from my own research that this cancer had a 5% survival rate. As I surveyed the room, I picked up the sheet and looked at the incision, another long vertical incision with tubes coming out from everywhere. And I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I was spent, exhausted. That was the worst night of my life.
The next morning, Peter found his wife and oldest son at his bedside, and he broke down in despair. His son stayed with him for the next week, reading scripture and playing hymns. During this very dark time for Peter, his family, friends, and church leadership were praying for him. Yet, he was numb emotionally and spiritually.
So it was a Saturday evening. I'm leaving the movie theater with my wife, and I just figured I'd text Pete, and I texted him and said, hey, how are you doing? And he texted me back and said, it's dark and getting darker. And I paused for a moment and said, well, maybe I should ask him if I should come in. But something prompted me, and I said, I'll see you in the morning. I'll be there. I got home, and I went upstairs to our 2nd floor bedroom. I got on my knees, and I just said, Lord, I have no clue. I am clueless of what to tell this man. You know, what do I do? And it was so clear the Lord said he needs to write. He needs to express what he's feeling. Bring him a journal. So I carry a lot of these. They're brand new, and I brought a journal exactly like this with the pen. Got up in the morning, drove into the city.
He showed up the next morning and slapped a brand new journal on my chest. And I thought, what are you doing here? And what is this? Johnny D didn't stay long, but I put the journal aside. After about 4 days, I picked up the journal.
The journal entries were raw and depressing at first. Peter felt he had to be honest about how he felt, abandoned by God.
He gave me 23 truths that I wrote down. Each time I received one, I would weep. They were reminders about him. He was restoring my relationship with him. Some of those truths are that he loves me and that nothing could separate me from his love. He had been with me in surgery, in intensive care, in recovery. Though I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, Christ was with me. He also said to me, Peter, when you are weak, then I am strong in you. He also gave me an assurance of eternity with him, a certainty that when I pass from this earthly tent, I will be with him forever.
One experience was Dr. Grasso sat right beside me in a chair, and Peter was on the table with his legs down. And Dr. Grasso came in to give us the bad news that his cancer had metastasized and he needed to get his house in order. And Dr. Grasso delivered the news to Peter with a broken voice, and I could tell Dr. Grasso was having a hard time. And Peter looked at Dr. Grasso and he said, Dr. Grasso, you don't have to worry about me, because I have a relationship with my Lord and I know exactly what's going to happen to me.
One passage of scripture the Lord has used powerfully in Peter's cancer journey is from Luke 8, where a storm engulfs the boat Jesus and the disciples were on while Jesus slept.
And Jesus went to the bow of the boat and said to the wind and waves, peace, be still. And the wind and the waves were immediately calm. Then he looked back at his disciples, these men who had followed him, and said to them, where is your trust? And the thing that I love about that story is that Jesus does have the power to calm my storm. Yet what he does promise is he will travel with me and partner with me in it. And when I look at him and focus on him rather than the storm circumstances, I know that I'm going to be okay, that Jesus will deliver me peace and joy despite my storm.
It was as if the Lord's arms wrapped around him, and he felt the tangible presence of Jesus. God was affirming Peter as his son and began to speak to him. Peter knows that the same hope, the same peace, and the same comfort that he has in his life today is something he needs to share with others. So he does just that for the glory of God.
It is a one day at a time journey. And it is the fact that Jesus Christ has been faithful to me, and I have to give testimony to that, because I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't say that every day that Jesus Christ has given me a tremendous amount of peace and joy, even in the midst of this journey. Here I sit after a 13-year cancer journey, in which last year my doctors were doubtful that I would survive. One of the purposes that I feel strongly about is to encourage others in their journeys with the same peace, hope, and comfort that I've received.